Hello, people. So, this is a path that I've been wanting to open up for a long time, but I've been really afraid to. So, I kind of went to do it now before I chicken out and talk myself out of doing this video and out of just talking about all of this. And before I start, I just want to show you this beautiful painting on the wall. Like here where I am right now, we have all of these avocado trees and lemon trees and orange trees, and there you see this painting of women collecting all of this stuff. It's a really beautiful painting that I love, and I just want to share it with you. Okay, so title: Sexuality, Intimacy, and Patriarchy. Why are those linked together? Well, sexuality and intimacy is like need each other. And patriarchy is what's been making us very confused about sexuality. And it's made sex and sexuality into this power thing. Like, it's been such a long and weird journey with that. How women were and still are taught that their bodies are properties. Like in most countries, this is still how it is, that you belong to a husband and then like a father or husband, or if you don't have that, a brother, and you're taught that you are here to look pretty and you are here to please a man and you are here to be a good daughter or a good wife. And we are not taught as women that our pleasure and our sexuality is something amazing. We are taught the other thing of it, that we are used to give pleasure to men, but we're not supposed to feel pleasure, and we're supposed to be quiet and small and not take up too much space so that we can make a man feel manly. And like that is a big wound in men too, because why would you need a woman to be small and quiet to feel manly? That is actually a sign that you don't feel manly. And yeah, so that is a little something to start with, just like the wound around it and the confusion around it, and just how women were taught to be pleasing, to be quiet, to be good girls, to be properties, to not explore themselves. Like I know so many women that don't know the parts of their pussies. Like they have no clue. When I went to high school, or yeah, I think it was high school, my girls and I were talking, and one of them just didn't know anything about her anatomy. Like she didn't know anything, and we sat her down and explained everything to her. And like when I was younger, my girlfriends and I, we talked about like our periods and the pain of being a woman, but we never talked about pleasure. And when it came to masturbating, everyone was like, "I don't do that. That's disgusting. Girls do that. Don't do that." And I was like, "That's bullshit. Why are you lying? I'm doing it, so like I know some of you are doing it." And it was such a big thing, like just saying that. As I was saying it, it was such a shameful thing. It was so hard to even get that out and say, like, yeah, I am masturbating. I'm a woman and I am masturbating. That was really hard. That was really tough. And it was only like after that that people began to open up and just speak about their sexuality a little bit more. And for me personally, like I am very connected to sex and all of that, and I have thousands of wounds around it, and it's been a really, really, really hard journey for me in so many ways. And I think that that's been part of my initiation to heal all of that in my lineage and my family line, and just like the feminine and the wounds around that. It's been such big work that I've been doing personally that I've been having a hard time to truly share. So I really wanted to go into it more now, and like the feelings I have and the reflections I have. So I discovered that I'm a sexual being very early. I think I was like 7 years old when I was like, I think 10. And everything, like puberty hits me hard and it hit me early. So all of that began very early for me. And I was also very aware as a kid and empathic. So I could feel things and take things in very easily. And I still am, obviously, but like it began there. So I discovered that I'm a sexual being very early, and I had all this like confusion around it, and because it like I felt very clearly that it's hush hush and it's not something you speak about, and that it's something wrong, that it's like something you need to hide, something that you like this such a natural part of you and no one is talking about it with you at such a young age and like a critical time. Nobody really sat me down and talked to me about sex and sexuality and like my body, and like my mom talked to me about my period, but that wasn't like the best talk I had. And then about sex and all of that, I didn't really have anyone to talk to. And I felt really afraid to talk about that with my mom because I felt this energetic, like that's not something we're talking about. So I learned everything from the internet and like people around me and porn, which is horrible. Like it fucks you up. It really fucks you up. So I was like very early aware of everything. So I started to take it into my own hands and just learn about it in the best way that I could. And now I know how, like, not maybe not fucked up, but how much of the programming that I had around sex and sexuality came from porn and how wounding and horrible that was for like just to see all of that, which is like porn is just not respecting women at all, and it's just so male focused in a way that is just abusive and like fucked. So it's not a good way for a kid to learn about sex and sexuality. It's like it's not. And when you don't have anyone to talk to, like when you don't have adults taking you and you have this rite of passage, you have this and way, of course you're going to look for it in some place. And when we have the internet, like as kids, we can do basically whatever we want. And before, like when I was younger, we didn't have like this kids protection stuff, and I don't know what they have now. Nobody was really aware of that, and people like it's like people forget that kids are completely innocent, but they are very curious and they know much more than what adult like it's like adults try to repress how aware they were as kids because it was too painful or it was just, yeah, so they try to put that away and they like tell themselves that kids don't know what's going on, but kids do know what's going on. Like kids are extremely smart and intuitive and intelligent, but in a whole nother way. And it's just like everything is not developed yet. So it's just taking in everything in whatever way feels true and safe to them. So for me, growing up, I didn't feel any self worth. I had all these body complexes and issues. I've had pretty much every eating disorder that you can have. Um, I've had like this extreme issues with my body and with my sexuality and all the shame around it and never feeling worthy. And I had this really strong programming of feeling like I exist to please men and that a man can't love me unless I have sex with them. And that was the programming that I had very, very, very strongly for a long time. And it was that story that was like bringing me through my life. And it was just not a good way to start. Like, I lost my virginity at 15 and I wasn't really ready for it. I just felt like I need to get it over with. I need to do it. That's what I need to do. I felt this extreme pressure to have sex. And it was because I didn't have anyone to guide me and talk with me about deeper things. And like, I just knew what I learned from all the fucked upness on the internet. And I also like, I was really interested in sex overall. It was like this very interesting thing for me. And I think that like when I was 12 to like 14, I started to watch these shows about like in Sweden, we had this show that was called 69 Things You Want to Know About Sex. And it was this guy traveling around the world and like learning about different sexual stuff and like like the whole spectrum of sexuality. And I was really, really into that because it was so interesting to me to just find out. It was just like this thirst inside of me to just know more and more about it. And I just wanted to know more. I wanted to understand. So that was like the healthier part of learning. And then I had this unhealthy part with like porn and just abusing my own body, really, and just not knowing my own self worth. And yeah, so that was like a little bit about me. Just just really learning and just really giving you the story of my sexual history. Like, I'm not going to give you all the details, but like how it all began and how it was. And it wasn't until I think, how old were I when I met my ex-boyfriend? I think I was 18. I was 18, about to, yeah, I was 18, turning 19 when I met my ex-boyfriend, who was the first guy that actually cared about my pleasure and actually encouraged me to find my own sexuality and like my own, just like exploring myself. And that was a big turning point for me. That whole relationship was a really big turning point for me in every way, but like in the sexual way too. And he was very wounded sexually himself, so like we had like similar wounds around our bodies and sexuality and all of that. So it was like that whole stuff going on there, but he still really helped me and was a big part of my initiation to heal sexually. And like I said, that was a big turning point for me. I started to really explore and really allow myself to come into my body and explore myself. And like the more I did that, the more I learned. And it's work that I still do. Like it's not easy. There's so many layers of shame and wounding and pain and all of that. And like the bigger picture of that is patriarchy and just this fucked up way of seeing sex and fucked up way of seeing sexuality and just fucked up way of seeing women as this walking bodies without like just looking pretty and being pleasing. That's been like, such a big collective wound, and the wound for men has been enormous too, because it's like they get all their validation through sex and how many sexual partners they had. So we had this like, if a man has many partners, sexual partners, he's a king. But if a woman has many sexual partners, she's a slut. So we had this like fucked up way of seeing it. And it's a big collective wound. It's a big collective issue. And one thing that I often reflect upon is this just insane notion that casual sex should be without feeling and emotion, that and I want to be really clear about this. I am not saying that it's wrong to have one night stands, that it's like casual sex is wrong. What I'm saying is that our view of it and the way we are approaching it is just really like not human. It's really dehumanizing, because sex is a really vulnerable, intimate thing. And just putting away feelings and emotions from that is not healthy. It's just not healthy. And it's just not true, because, of course, we have feelings. Of course, we are vulnerable, like we are naked in front of each other, we are expressing ourselves, we are making all these sounds, and like it's a very vulnerable thing. And allowing in feelings and emotions and just intimacy into that makes sex better. Even if it's a one night stand, why should that be something without emotion, without feeling? That is like, why is it an either or thing? It's just not healthy. And I'm not saying that monogamy is the only way. I'm not preaching for any of that. I'm not preaching for, like, I'm naturally very monogamistic, but I'm not saying that that's the only way. And I would personally be okay with trying out different things in my life. But what I'm saying is that taking away feelings and emotions from sex, no matter if it's in a relationship or like casual or one night stand or like just sex partner, but without a relationship steps, like whatever it is, feelings, emotions, communication, intimacy makes it better and truer. It's like taking away those things doesn't make you this cool, I don't know what, it just makes you repressing your feelings. It just makes you lie to yourself and numb yourself out. And sex is this beautiful way of connecting. Why should we make it shallow and superficial when it's not that in its nature at all? And that's the really big, like the media and movies and shows, like that's the big issue with that. And like this time that we live in now, that we're trying to normalize and dehumanize sex in a way that is not healthy. Like dehumanizing is not healthy in any way, but like normalizing sex in a way that is not healthy. Like you should just go around, have sex with anyone, not care about anyone's feelings, not care about your feelings, and just like everything is just fine. Everything with sexuality is fine. And yeah, it is. but not the way we are approaching it and not the way we are approaching ourselves. And if you're going around having sex with people to get validation, well, you're not doing yourselves any favors. Believe me, I know from personal experience. So, intimacy and sexuality then go hand in hand. It's not an either or kind of thing. It's not like I need to protect myself from feelings when I'm having sex with someone because I don't want to get attached. Like, you don't need to have this lifelong relationship and commitment with anyone you're having sex with. It's not about that. Or like, if you feel anything towards anyone, then you just, well, then you just gotta go along with it and have a relationship with them. That's not good for you either. You don't like, we have such a black and white way of seeing all of this, and it's not healthy. You can have one night stands, you can have like casual sex and relationships, and you don't have to define them. But what is not right is not communicating, it's not being honest, it's all these games and the manipulation and the using and the abusing. That's what is fucked up about it. And just women being taught that they don't have any power, so their only way is sexual power, and just learning how to manipulate with your body and with sex. It's just like, it's not doing you any favors because you're not seeing your own worth in that either. Like, why would you want to be with a man that you have to manipulate? And why would you want to be in a position where you need to manipulate instead of just being able to be honest and true? And it's such a big thing for women that we don't feel like we can speak up about our sexuality and tell our partners what we need and what we like. And most often it's because we don't even know what we need or what we like, or because we are very afraid to hurt a man, or just or getting hurt ourselves, because that's been a very big thing. Like, a wounded man's ego can be very, very dangerous to a woman. And sex and violence became like, suddenly became this thing where it's like sex is violence, and sex is becoming like more and more violent and more emotionless. And it's just really sad. And it shows us this big wound, this collective wounding we have from the patriarchal system of raising kids, of approaching sexuality. Like in school, when they teach you about sex in Sweden, they teach you about like contraception, diseases, how to put on a condom, like how your womb works, um, how you get pregnant and all of that, which is great. Like, we need that, but we are completely missing the emotional part of it, the maturity in having sex. We're completely missing the most important ingredients of it, like our humanity, that vulnerability. We're missing all of that. Nobody is teaching anyone about that because everyone is so afraid to touch those places within themselves. So nobody is teaching you the importance of that. And like, I know of very few people who doesn't have sexual wounding in some way. And it's just sad and hurtful, and it's something we really need to change. And the way to change it is really do our own work and be true to ourselves and be honest with ourselves and look into our history. How have we been approaching sex? How have we been showing up for ourselves? Have we, like, how is our partner, if we have one? Do we feel safe with them? Do we feel safe about talking and just like being real? Like, and if not, why are we still there? Like, it's about doing our own work, going into ourselves and really uncovering those wounds and the beliefs and the pains and the ways we were taught to approach sex and sexuality and intimacy and ourselves and feelings and emotions and the patriarchal conditioning that we have. We really need to go into that ourselves. And as we do it one by one, we heal the collective and like our lineages, everything that goes back and back and back in time. And it's just like, for me, I know that my passion lays where I feel very angry, where I feel rage, and like when where my heart hurts the most, that's where I'm needed in the world. And when I look into the oppression, and when I watch a show or a movie and I see all this abusing of women and repressing women, that is just awakening such a deep rage within me. That is just like, that just makes me boil because I can see how all of that has been in my life. So I know that a very big part of my journey, a very big part of my path is doing this work. And I know that it will unfold and show itself more and more with time because it's something that I've always been very anchored into and have so many wounds around myself. And like, I know that that's such a big part of my path. So, where my anger and my rage and my hurts are, I know that that's where I can bring in the most healing, bring in the most change. So I really push myself, or like, I don't want, I can't find the right word, but like, I really, yeah, push myself and encourage myself to go into this path more and more and talk about this more and more and be honest about my experience and be honest about just how I've experienced sex and sexuality and how my programming has been and how I have misused sexuality and my body to get validation, to get appreciation, and like how that's been the way I felt that is the only way to do things and the right way to do things. And that's the way to survive and get the love that I need. So just speaking about all of this and voicing this and being truthful about it and just talking about how unhealthy it is to expect sex to be without feeling and emotion and without vulnerability is just, it's just how we begin to do the work. It's how we begin to change the way we see things, the way we approach things. Like, as humans, we are so deeply wired to connection, to touch, to feeling, to being close to one another, to explore and be curious and be loving and just like empathize with one another, cut off from us because we have lived in a masculine driven world without the balance of the feminine. And now we need to heal that. We need to bring in new ways and we need to begin to speak about it and just voice our experience, our truth. And it doesn't have to be like I'm doing right now, like on YouTube where everyone can see, because I've been talking about this first in very small groups and like with people that I just feel very safe with. And that has helped me to heal and see wounds and beliefs and patterns inside of myself and just speak about it more and more and more and more openly. So I'm not saying that to heal or to change or be a part of the change, you need to just write out everything and just speak about it with everyone. But doing what feels true to you and right to you. And for me, it has felt so true and so right to speak about these things in a big way that I haven't ever allowed myself to because I've been afraid and ashamed and just felt like, who am I to talk about this? And what do I have to say? Like, I have so many wounds. And then I just really felt like, yeah, and that's exactly why I can be talking about it. That's exactly why I can create space for people to talk about this and create space for healing, create space for change, and create space for women to empower themselves, to know themselves, to explore themselves, to voice themselves, to really assert themselves in their lives, their sexuality, their bodies. It's been such a big part of my own journey, and I really want to create space where others can feel safe and open up space for others to talk about this stuff. And if not talk about it, just hearing about it can inspire us to just go on inner journeys and reflect and have all these inquiries about where we are at and what's true for us and how we have been approaching ourselves. So that's just what I really felt called to do. That's really what I felt. It's time to take that step. It's time to open that path more and more and really speak about the truth. So if you feel like you can relate or anything resonates and you have something to share or something is coming up for you, like feel free to write it here or like message me personally. You can go to my website and find my contact information. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Grounded Empowerment, and just like speak to me, talk to me, reach out to me. Because like I've had many very hard and traumatic sexual experiences, so I have personal experience with this stuff and going through that and working through the trauma. So holding space in that way is something that I feel prepared to do. And it feels very true and natural to me to hold space for that trauma, for that wound, because it's been such a big part of my own journey. And I want to keep like keep sharing that, like creating this ripple of healing and empowering and embodying sexuality and love and vulnerability and true real intimacy with like honesty and rawness. So feel free to reach out to me. I will really love to hold space for you and love to witness you and be there for you. I know how important it is to have people that you feel really safe talking with and be open with and just be able to voice what you're experiencing, what you have been experiencing and what has been true for you. So that's been what I just felt called to talk about and go into. And I will go into all of this more and just talk about the patriarchy more and the conditioning and intimacy and sexuality and wounds and womb work and pussy work and embracing yourself and becoming more intimate with yourself. And I also want to say that intimacy is like intimacy is at the core of everything. It's not just a sexual thing. Intimacy is not just sexual. Intimacy is being really intimate and true with your own inner world, with your feelings, with what is true for you, with your pain. Like intimacy is that inner connection, that devotion to oneself. So it's not just a sexual thing. Sex and closeness is a byproduct of the way we are able to be intimate with ourselves. I really wanted to just get that out there. And I see that I got some comments in Swedish. If I can put in Swedish text on my videos. I don't know how to do that, but I will try. So, yeah. So that's what I really had to talk about today and just get out of me. As I said before, I talk myself out of it. And when I feel called, when I feel inspired, and when it feels right and true, I will go into this more and I will go into different aspects of it. And I will just keep opening up this conversation and just keep showing up in whatever way feels right and true. So, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening, witnessing, for just being here, for witnessing my story and my view, my the way I see things, which can be very different from how you see things. And that's why I really want to have this conversation, because our experiences and stories are medicine for, like, our differences are beautiful. The diversity in everything is such a beautiful thing because it can open up ways of seeing and doors that we didn't even know exist. So, as I said, thank you so much. And I wish you a beautiful night. I wish you a good day wherever you're at. Like, it's nighttime here where I am. So, take care of yourself and keep going into yourself, keep becoming more and more intimate with yourself, and explore those patriarchal wounds and beliefs and programming. It will do you good. Bye.